So hello and welcome to the Lewis Nichols Show. And we've got loads of people on this call today, and I'm really excited because they are part of a film that I just watched last week. And genuinely, I mean this when I say it, it's a film you have to watch because it's just full of emotion. I didn't expect to be crying on Sunday morning when I watched it, but it was just so moving. So let's say hello to the cast of Out of Time. We've got Leon Lopez.
Hello.
How are you?
Yeah, good, but I'm not in it.
Yeah, but you're the director. We're gonna go.
But everybody keeps putting me in as the cast. It's like I keep getting tweets. Oh, the cast of Out of Time. I'm like, I'm not in it. I don't like acting anymore.
You got the very talented Kerry Williams. How are you?
I'm very good. Lovely to be here.
Thank you so much. And Nathan Moore, how are you?
I'm good. Yeah, here in the kitchen, loving it.
And then we've got Mr. Christmas himself that's got his tree up already. It's Marcus Collins. Hello.
Hello. Lovely to be here. Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much. Well, I've got to start. We'll start with Leon because you've directed this film. We're going to go more into it a little bit later, but many of us will know you from your previous work as a director, as an actor, and of course in the legendary Brookside as well, which we were just talking about a little bit off air. Do you still get recognized from your time on the show? Because you were in that for a long time and a lot of episodes.
To be honest, it depends where I am, really. In Liverpool, I do more than anywhere. And when I'm in London, like I moved to London, I was living in London for 18 years and I hardly ever did. Although the difference is not necessarily that you weren't recognized. It's just that people in London would not spit on you if you're on fire. Whereas in Liverpool, everyone will gab your ear off. So it's I kind of get a lot more people coming up to me in my hometown than I do anywhere else. But I always find it's really refreshing. And that's what started off my career. I'm so grateful. But it's always weird when you get like 12-year-olds coming up to you for some reason, like really young kids. And I'm like, where the hell have you watched this soap? I mean, how were you watching it? But they always used to watch it with like the grandparents or whatever when they were younger. So yeah.
Well, you're kind of an all-rounder because not only are you an actor and you've done stuff on the West End, but a director as well. So how did you actually transition from your time as an actor and then going into being a director? Because it's a completely different field.
Oh, goodness, you'll be here all day if I give you this. Let me try and do a quick version of it. So basically it happened because in 2010, I wanted to make something to be it. I wanted to produce something and be in it because of just the lack of work. And it wasn't the fact that I wasn't getting work. It's just work that I wanted to do. So a friend of mine who's a writer, Darren Little, I asked him to write a script for me and I was going to produce it. And I told him who I wanted to be in it, the cast. And then I got a friend of mine who was a director, kind of like, no disrespect if you ever watch it, I'm not saying his name just in case, but he'd been to film school and he had a camera. So we shot it. I produced did all, where it got all the locations, everything. But then when we come to get the edit, it just looked, or there wasn't even iPhones back then, but it looked like it had been shot on one. And Darren was like, look, I just can't put my name to it because she's an established writer and whatever. So it made me realize I want to learn how to do stuff myself so I never fall into that trap. So then I just bought a camera and I just started shooting stuff and I started making show reels for friends. And I used to write as part of the Liverpool Everyman Writers Group. So a few of the short plays that I'd written, I made into short films. And then I just discovered the love for being behind the camera. And then I stopped wanting to be in the stuff that I was making and just wanted to be behind the scenes. And it's kind of grown from there.
Are we going to see you back in front of the camera? Are you quite settled now behind?
Well, I've not given up. Like I've still got an agent and everything. And I think he hates the fact that I keep getting booked on work. But the thing is, it's like as an actor, you could be out of work for 6 months to 12 months waiting for the jobs. Whereas as a director, and at the moment, because I'm still quite new and I've started working within soaps and television, more people are willing to book you. So I'm booking on a job before I've even finished the last job, which I'm so grateful for, especially with COVID and so many people being out of work. But so I can't really turn it down and I love it. So I can't like say, I'm going to say no to like 3 months work waiting for a job that, might never happen. So it's, and I love it. I love being creative with actors. I love working with actors and I love the confidence and comfortability that actors get working with me because they know that I'm an actor. And it's so weird. I don't have to do anything. And people always say, oh, you get great performances. And you know what? They just do it. And I don't know if it's because like I just allow people to do what they want and feel safe and comfortable. But I just I watch it and I'm just like, I don't want to swear, but I get goosebumps. And when people give amazing performances, it just makes me feel like I feel more excited than when I feel like I've given a good performance as an actor. So I feel like I'm on the right track.
Well, we're also going to now go to Nathan. And Nathan, when we mentioned your name earlier on Twitter, it went absolutely nuts because you're just loved. And obviously, for those who don't know, you're a lead singer of the band that were hugely successful in the 80s, Brother Beyond. I wasn't even born, but I know the music. So I wanted to go back to actually how your part in the band actually came about. Was it like an audition process? Did you just, how did that all come about for you?
Oh God, now we're really going back a long way. So I was in a band with my older sister called the Palm Tree Club. And it was like a reggae band out in Hertfordshire. And I kind of got spotted by, actually this guy ended up being the guitarist in the band. And he said, look, I think you're a good front man. And I've got this guy who's writing some songs. And that ended up being the keyboard player of Brother Beyond. And he said, he's looking for a singer. Can we play the songs? They played me the songs. I liked them, and ended up leaving my sister and that group. And then we formed Brother Beyond. And then his brother joined, called Egg. They were the White Brothers, and his brother got called Egg White. And he kept it as his professional name. And in fact, if you look up Egg White now, you will see how successful he is. He wrote Leave Right Now for Will Young and Chasing Pavements with Adele. But when he was with us, he was 15. No, he's 16. 16, that's it. So he was kind of at the start of his talented journey. But yeah, so that was like 1985 when we kind of got together. And then the success didn't come till about 88.
And where did that success come from? Because you said there it was 85, and it was a couple of years before you hit the charts and you became as big as you did. So where did that kind of switch come from? Did you get kind of promotion? Like, how did that happen?
Well, the Egg White and Carl Fish wrote the songs, and we'd had 4 singles released by EMI, and they just weren't quite making it into the charts. And we were probably about to be dropped by EMI. And Stock Aitken and Waterman came along. And Pete Waterman, we'd met him in a pub, and I think he liked us. And then there was this bizarre auction where EMI bid quite a lot of money for charity and got the right to, Stock Aitken and Waterman to produce a song for an act. And we became the act. It was our lucky moment. And if it wasn't for that, you and I wouldn't be talking right now, yeah, that was 1988, some 32 years ago, and yeah, they wrote the hit for us.
And what I find amazing about when you look at 80s music compared to any other decade, it just lives on in such a different way. Like, you have the 80s festivals. Why do you think that is? What was so different about the 80s, which has made it kind of legendary in regards to the music scene?
I think a lot of things were consolidated then. You only had a few avenues to promote yourself. So everything was like, you got to be in smash hits. You got to be on Top of the Pops. But when you were in those magazines or were on that TV show, everybody saw you. Because I remember the first time doing Top of the Pops, and the next day I walked down Oxford Street, and every other person, I could hear them saying, that's him from that band last night. And I kind of I remember thinking, God, I'm famous. Literally in that moment. And I think that was the difference then, pre-internet. Whereas I think now, I don't know, maybe I'm just old now, but I don't know who's in the top 10 of the charts. I might hear a song on a radio, and I might like the song, but I don't know who's singing it. I don't know what they look like. So I don't know, maybe that's my age thing. Maybe youngsters know stuff, but I think it was more focused then. You were on stuff, everybody saw the Royal Variety, everyone saw smash hits, everyone, it was just, I think that was part of it.
Obviously, we're going to talk about your role in this film a little bit later, but apart from that, are you working on any other projects at the moment that you can tell us about, or any solo work?
Yeah, I'm renovating a house. Honestly, no, I had my busiest year in front of me at the beginning of this year. In March, I was ready to be singing and performing every weekend until I had a tour in France, I had every 80s festival, like in the summer, and it went to nothing. So I went from earning quite well to earning nothing. Yeah, me and my wife, we renovate houses, and that's what I've had to. So today I unloaded 48 bags of plaster, 180 plaster boards into a house, and actually I quite enjoy it, but no, seriously, if things return, then lots of those shows that were meant to be there will come back next year, but we don't know. So until then, you gotta put the graft in. So that's what I mainly do. Obviously, when it's come to the movie Out of Time, I just gave a small part of me to that, and it was my pleasure to be, give my 5 pennies worth. But the real talent is on the other parts of the screen. Kerry and Marcus and Leon, they're all, they're fantastic. It's a fantastic story. So I'm just, just really happy to play my small part in it.
Well, we're going to move on to that a little bit later about your role in that. But let's say hello to Marcus Collins, who's joining us now. How are you?
Hey, I'm really good, thanks. How are you?
Really good, thanks. It's great to get you on the show. And most people will obviously know you when you shot to fame in 2011, taking part on the X Factor. Now, with that kind of show, the level of fame that you get almost instantly is just insane. I mean, you can go on there not known, and then all of a sudden, Twitter, social media, magazines, papers all go nuts. How did you kind of adapt to that side of things?
Prescription medication. No, I'm only joking. I still find it strange that people recognize me from doing something that was 10 years ago. So it blows my mind. I've been so lucky that I'm still, working in theatre and producing music and having a great time doing what I love to do. And it was an amazing springboard for me. But yeah, it was almost 10 years ago now. And it was quite shocking, quite shocked to the system, having to go from, being a part-time hairdresser in Liverpool. I had a really small little apartment. I was a name driver on my mum's punch-out on the insurance. Like, I was literally just trying to make ends meet. And frankly, I still am. But, back then, I never had any clue of what was about to come and the potential of doing that show. And it really did thrust me into the public eye. And yeah, still kind of adapting to it now.
I mean, you were mentored by Gary Barlow, and you both seemed to just work so well together, almost like he understood where you wanted to go as an artist. So what was he like as a mentor? And I know, Leon, you've worked with him as well, haven't you, before?
No, I just recorded a song that he'd written, but it kind of got spun into the fact that we'd worked together and we hadn't. I just sung one of his songs.
Back
to Marcus.
Yeah, what was he like as a mentor?
Do you know what? He is quintessentially a northern guy, and very, very funny, very compassionate, very patient. And, you meet him, you meet the team. I got to know his wife, Dawn. I got to meet his mum. I got to meet the management. I got to meet everybody who goes into Team GB. And it was so cool to to spend time with them and see what it is like for these huge A-listers and how they live. And to try and, I just hope that some of it would rub off. And I think it did. I think I took on a lot. Gary give me a great quote when using social media, which is never complain and never explain. If you have something to put out there, put it out and put it out for a reason. It's really not fun when you end up sitting there arguing with people. So that was something that I've moved forward with and carried with me. Excuse me, my dog's having a little shake. She's just had a bath. But yeah, he was great. He was really, really sound, and his mum makes boss ham butties.
And obviously, I mean, you did hugely well. You came runner-up to Little Mix on the show, and then after the show, you released your solo music, and you did a cover of Seven Nation Army, which is something I didn't expect when you were on the show. that you would come out with that single, but like, I don't want to sound like Louis Walsh, but you literally did make it your own. So like, you must have been really happy with the with the reaction from the public, because it did well in the charts.
It did. It was top 10. It was my first single. I was really, really happy with it. I mean, off the record, I didn't want to release it straight away. It was not something that I felt represented me. However, I agreed to go ahead and be a guinea pig and to see what would happen. I kept being pulled into these conversations that centered around momentum. So it was strike while the iron's hot. Let's get something out. Be the first artist to have a single on the X Factor tour. Be the first artist to get something out in 3 months. Why are we waiting around 12 months for the follow-up Christmas, you know, to go compete with the Christmas X Factor single? Why don't we, you know, change the record and do something completely different? And me being me was like, absolutely, I gamble everything 100% on this. Let's see what happens. And you know what? Some say it went well, some say it went terribly. I think I made the right choice for me at the time. And yeah, it was interesting. It was fun. I'm really glad that I did that.
Well, let's go to the lady while we're all here. And she has the most glamorous piano in showbiz. Let's say hello to Kerry Williams. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Well, thank you so much. And like I was saying before we came on, I watched this film last week for the first time. I didn't know anything about it. I was just sent the link and I watched the film, and I was just gripped because it started off almost like a light-hearted, fun kind of look into Liverpool and life in Liverpool and working class families. And then there's a much bigger story that just comes into it. And it's full of emotion. It's full of so much. It really gripped me. And like I said to you, I did cry because it was so up, so down. There was good moments and tough moments. So let's go to the kind of inspiration behind this film, where the idea came from and how where did you get the inspiration from?
Basically, I'm a mum of 4, and I just remember seeing a little clip on this morning about, and you know where they have that little tab that comes up at the bottom, and it says coming up on today's show, and it had that this woman had a 3-year-old boy, and she was allowing him to dress as a little girl. And I remember looking at it and thinking, oh my God, that's really like young. And at the time I had a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, and I was thinking, surely that is too young to allow your child to know at that age. And at the time I knew nothing of transgender, I knew nothing of trans dysphoria, I knew nothing. So just out of being inquisitive, I just thought, I'll just have a little tiny Google search, see what that comes back with. And what happened to this little simple Google search that I went on, it just took me and led me down these paths. And I read so many hundreds of case studies. And then all of a sudden I just became gripped. I was like, oh my God, I didn't know it was so devastating and tragic, and the trauma that it brings to these children. And I ended up literally sitting at the computer, just crying my eyes out, reading just story after story about these children who honestly, I didn't know that. And I felt like I was really ignorant and naive to not know as a mom. And I thought, what if my child ever came to me and said, Mom, I didn't know any, I thought, I don't know any signs, I don't know what I would do, who do you speak to, what does it consist of? And I was just looking for the questions for basically myself, really. And then obviously because I'm a little bit nosy as well and a bit more inquisitive, and I was pulled in then, and I just got completely compelled into wanting to know more. So I just carried on doing research, and I was literally heartbroken. Literally, I can't tell you how. One day, I dropped the kids off at nursery and my older 2 at school, and I came back and I had all these case studies out, and I printed loads of stuff off, and I was reading all this information, and the school rang and they went, Kerry, are you coming to pick your children up from school? And I was like, yeah, at 3:30. And they were like, well, it's 5 o'clock. And I was like, oh, I've literally sat on the computer for that long and been so involved in these people's lives and these stories that I'd forgot to put all my children from school, which is quite embarrassing. But, and then it just developed from there. I just kept going with the research and I started talking to people. And I think what got me was, I think at the beginning, like most people, they think it's a mental illness, and it's just definitely not a mental illness. It's a medical problem. Do you know what I mean? And I think that was the most harrowing part for me. I thought, why are we so naive and not told the truth? Why is it like a secret or a stigma? Why has it got to be that mums don't know that this could happen to their child, it could happen to my child?
Yeah.
And I think just as a mum, I was invested, you know. And then we developed from there.
I was gonna say, your partner in the show, who plays your partner, is it Sam, the character?
I'm Sam, and Jamie plays Danny.
Danny. You can't get a more manly man than that. And I mean, you initially, I don't want to give too much away for people that
I love you for saying that.
But he is, isn't he? You just look at this guy and he comes across, he struggles to deal with this, what's going on. And, you know, he blames you to start with. When he's been in prison, he thinks that it's your fault. You brainwashed him into doing it. And it all kind of kicks off. But the moving part is when towards the end, his feelings start to change. And I think that's
without giving too much of the plot away. I'm joking.
I mean, it was just so moving to see like him change and him to start to see it's still my child and that love is still there, and it was just so moving. But I think it was your relationship as well. It was the moment I was saying to Leon before we even came on the swings in the garden.
It's one of my favorite scenes.
That was just so moving, and it was just, you've got this undying love, and I think that's what is kind of instrumental throughout this entire film. So what I was going to ask, could there be a second installment? Is that something you've looked into to kind of follow the life after and what's going on now and that kind of thing?
No, I wouldn't. Well, obviously there would be loads of stories we could go down and loads of threads we could come off the back of that, but I think we'll just leave that alone for now. But honestly, there's so many people have said they just wanted to know more. What was it like when he was, you know, all the other problems that you would envisage as being like a trans, you know, girl in, you know, normal everyday life, all the other different obstacles that would come in his way and what he was dealing with for the first time. But no, I think we've given enough.
And without like putting in on Kerry, I think the thing is, the reason why I felt this story was so important was the fact that all of those stories about after somebody's transitioned and whatever, there's lots of films, there's lots of stories that are out there like that. And it feels like, you know, when it comes to mainstream media, those types of stories are invested in. But something like this, which Kerry had written about, you know, it's not about what would it be like at the very early stages of it. It was something that we hadn't really seen, and Kerry thought there was a gap in the market, and not in the market, that makes it sound like she'd marketed this, she didn't, but she thought that through all of her research she hadn't seen anything like that. And when I read it, it was the same. I was like, oh, I've not really seen this story of how a family comes to terms with this situation, or even doesn't come to terms with it. And I think, you know, that's why this little story is so important, because this is just something that people don't really talk about.
So how did your involvement actually come about? I mean, Kerry, did you approach Leon? Like, how did that kind of partnership come about?
No, my friend of 20 years, Michelle Bellington, she got in touch with Leon. She knew Leon and she approached him, and thank God he said yes, because he literally made, and I keep saying it, how I wrote that film, Leon, that looks like how I dreamt it would look like in my mind. So for a director to do that, it's the very first time I seen the little Frankie bounce on the trampoline and then the shots going, I sobbed my eyes out and I was thinking, oh my God, that looks like exactly how I thought in my mind. So it's just brilliant that we were able to achieve
like
that.
Even now, sorry. Like when said it was written like that. So like even now, whenever I work on shows on like soaps and stuff, and they say, oh, you have your design meetings, are you going to do this and that? I'm like, well, I'm going to do what it says on the page, because I truly believe if somebody writes something, film what's there, and you have your artistic integrity. You can put your own artistic spin. But I think within Kerry's writing, it was so visual. In fact, it was a little bit over, because I kept saying to Kerry, it's too much. We have to no, because it was so specific and so clear. And I think I got involved through Michelle Billington, who's the producer of the film. I'd worked with her. She'd been a producer of something I'd acted in, and then I've known her for years off the back of that. And then there was a film, the first film I ever made, proper film, Soft Lad, which was a low budget feature film, which was shot with literally no money. And she knew that I'd made that. And again, it's she'd been everywhere trying to get funding for this with Kerry. They'd been in touch with all different producers, different, all different funding houses. And it's so hard to get money to invest in something. And even though we've got thousands of people messaging us every day now saying how the stories touched them and how great it is, the people who give you the money aren't really interested in that at that point. They just want to know, is there going to be a lot of money made from it? And on the page, when you read the script, you think, well, it mightn't have that big of an appeal. So she was like, well, we want to make it no matter what. We feel really passionate about it, really passionate about the story. We know that you've made stuff with little to no money. Would you be interested? So I read it, and I was just again, I was crying, as we're all crying, we all cry. Everyone cries in the story, but you go, wow, yeah, it's really moving. And that's kind of how I came about being involved in it.
And obviously you've worked, directed on so many TV shows and various projects. Looking back at the finished product, would you say this is some of your proudest work and something that you look back to with so much pride?
1,000,000%. The thing with it, because again, it's like I'm plugging Soft Lad. That's kind of what started my career. But when we made Soft Lad, we had literally 3 LED lighting panels to light the whole thing. So between doing Soft Lad and doing this, I'd invested so much. We shot it on the same camera that we shot it with, but I had a lot of bigger lighting rig, and because I've always bought. People always say to me, "Oh, don't buy your stuff, rent it." No, I've bought it. I own everything that I shoot with, because it means that if people hire me, it brings the costs right down, and that's how I can shoot stuff for little to no money. But I made sure, I knew I wanted to make it, I wanted to make sure that it was lit well, and just so that I could compete. When the stuff that I'd worked on since doing Soft Lad, I was like, I'm using the tips and tricks that I've learned from that, as we all do as actors, as performers. Everything that we've done before will help us be better when we do it again. So I was I kept saying to Kerry and Michelle, I was like, look, this is what I learned from doing that film. I don't want to fall into that trap again. I don't want this comment. I don't want that comment. I want to make sure that we can make it as clean, as polished as we can. If you knew how much we had to make this film, you'd be like, no way. But it was just the love, the passion, and all the people who were involved in it, because of Kerry and Michelle mostly. She can get you to do anything, this woman.
I mean, Kerry, I was talking to Lisa earlier, who organised the interview, and sometimes when I'm sent a film to watch, you never know what to expect, because sometimes they're very low budget, or it just hasn't got a feel to it. And I couldn't believe the level of production. Everything about this film is just insane, and I really hope after people watch this that they check it out. First of all, what's the reaction been like from the public in regards to the film?
Sorry. Oh my goodness, I can't tell you. And this is obviously the very first feature I've ever done. So it's been very overwhelming, really. And the amount of mums, I've said to Leon today, I've been on the phone. I've had loads of messages, private messages from mums who are going through this at the moment, who really do feel lost. And I was like, and they've obviously seen the clip on the TV today, or they've watched the film on Amazon Prime, or they've been shown the trailer, and all these mums have been getting in touch and saying they feel lost, and it's just lovely to have someone, something that connects, that they can connect to, because they don't know where to go, and it's the start, and they feel overwhelmed. They feel I've been on the phone today with some woman. I've literally cried half the day today. Because it's real people's lives, and it really, it's so massive, and it's just still very misunderstood. So it's been lovely. Obviously, I'm not an expert in transgender or gender dysphoria, by no means. I'm definitely not a doctor, and I've definitely not been through anything like that myself. But I'm a mum, so from a mum's level. And from the amount of research I did do, and I was paranoid. Yeah, I was very paranoid doing all my research, I wanted to make sure I knew the answer to everything, even though every single trans journey is completely different and completely complex, because we've all got these mad lives going on. So no two journeys will ever be the same. As no two divorces are the same, are they? No two whatever are the same. You know, we've all got different things going on. But oh yeah, it's been brilliant, and no negativity so far.
Well, I'm going to say, what a little gem you had with Frankie as well. But he is incredible. I can't believe that it's not going to be the last we see of him. That's for sure. His performance was insane.
Yeah. And we fell in love with him in the audition straight away. I felt like he was my son. I was furious he was going home with his real mum at the end of the day. I was like, oh, I love that kid.
When he's mine. Michelle and Kerry had done a load of auditions beforehand, because I was living in London at the time. So then they'd shortlisted down who they thought, and then they called me in and like we were auditioning the kids. I'm not going to tell you who we like, but I'm not going to say, and they never did, and literally went through all of them. And to be honest, I was in shock, because I know Liverpool is a talented city, but these youngsters, the first one come on, I went, that's him, it can be him. Like, okay, wait till you see the next. I said, no, that's him. And every single one. And then it got to Frankie, and he just walked in. His little sweetie, his hair's all grown long, and he sat down and he just did that swing scene. It's like, I'm a freak all night. And I went, oh my God, that's him. He was just like, the innocence and the purity that he had. And even now, he's 12 now, but like he still walks around. It's like, but it's just, there's something magical with it, you know. And I think especially with young actors, sometimes they can tap into something because they've got no baggage to tap into. And, you know, his parents sat him down and made sure, you know, this is the story, because none of us know who we are when we're that age. You know, he was 9 years old. It's like, how can, because, you know, we were like, oh, well, do we go down the angle of trying to find a 9-year-old who is trans? And it's like, we can't put that pressure on a 9-year-old child, because if somebody is going through a transition anyways, let's just audition kids. Let's audition. We'll find the person who's right, who can tap into what we need for the role. And Frankie did, but then they had to have the discussion. It's like, this is what this is about. And he really, I mean, he's beyond his years. He was like, I just want to play the part and be as truthful and he maybe not in exactly those words, but he was like, I just want to do the best job that I can. And it was just phenomenal. Like, and even now, like, he's an advocate for, you know, trans issues and stuff. And he's not a trans kid, but he's older now. And he knows that he'd never play that part at this age, but he's got so much respect for, you know, people who are going through this, and you couldn't have asked for better.
Well, we've got him on the show next week. I think from this show, this film, Kerry, you could have so many spin-off shows, because like you've got the lollipop lady who's got so much charisma. I'd love to know what she does on a day-to-day life. You've got the milkman that literally just gets mugged off by everyone, who gives out milk and never actually gets money for it. So much.
You're just giving away everything.
Yeah.
Come on, the milkman. That's not going to be the big.
Lewis, have you ever been to Liverpool?
Never been in my life.
I didn't think anyone paid the milkman by ours, or the Provident lady, or anyone for that matter. I think that was where he came from. That was true life. No one got paid by ours.
Still on the run.
So why does anyone become a milkman then if they're not going to get paid?
No,
the uniform, Lewis. The uniform and the early mornings.
I mean, Marcus, when I read that you were going to be on the film, I didn't know who you were going to play. And as soon as you walked in we hear you to start with, and you walk in with that sass, you look incredible. You must have just loved reading the script and seeing the character that you were going to play.
Honestly, like it was like it was written for me, to be honest. It didn't take much character analysis. I knew who Matt was straight away. I was like, yeah, I get him. I know exactly what he's trying to do and what his point is. And it was as though Kerry wrote him for me. It was perfect. And I just thoroughly had a great time with the performance. And to be honest, I'd literally just landed in. I'd been on tour in America, and I just landed after a 7-month tour. And then I flew from Canada. We did North America and Canada. We did Canada straight to London to Manchester. I had 3 hours at home, and then flew to Dubai for a different event, and then came straight to the set. So I am surprised my eyes were open and I could remember the words and the script, but it was written so easily and beautifully. It just flowed, and I had a great time with it.
So did you have to audition for that, or did Kerry approach you? Like, how did your involvement actually come about?
So I know Leon from in and around Liverpool, from seeing him in London. I know of his work, and the minute he reached out to me and said, "There's a project I think you might be good for," I instantly was excited, because I knew it was going to be something with gravitas. I knew it was going to be something like juicy that I was going to get stuck into. So I was like, brilliant, send the script over. So somewhere in the middle of Colorado, I was begging a receptionist to print me 190 pages of a script, offering her like all kinds of dollars, because I was like, I need to read it now. And I'm not good with reading off screen. So I was like, I need it on paper so I can make notes and figure out who he is. And as the minute it landed and I read, it was just written so beautifully, Kerry. I just couldn't, I was so excited. And in that moment, I knew that I had to get it. I had to do whatever it took to get that role. And Leon reached out to me, and the minute I had a chance and had a shot at it, it went through to Kerry and all the producers and that, and I managed to get the role. So thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Thank you. You smashed it.
Hey, by the way, Marcus, where were you before this? Because you said that you were like jetting all over the place. You've mentioned some incredible countries. So what were you actually doing before, taking part in this?
I mean, I am a bit of jack of all trades, and I get up to all kinds. So in that instance, I was actually on a 7-month North American and Canadian tour with a 7-part vocal harmony beatbox a cappella group. It sounds so random, but it was the best gig ever. So yeah, we were touring, we were on tour buses, we were in hotels, we were on flights, we did the Kennedy Center, the Lincoln Center, you name it, we played it in the States. And I had to make this work. I actually flew, I actually ended that contract a little early to make sure I could do this at the same time. So, well, just after, but they clashed a bit. But yeah, I've lived a very, very intriguing life, and I think it all peppers into my characterization with Matt.
Well, people are in for a treat when they see this. Let's go to Nathan. So Nathan, you mentioned there that you had a small part in the film, and you played, I don't know your character's name, but you were a doctor.
Dr. Gibson, yes.
And I don't want to give too much away, but you delivered some not so good news. So it was a big part of the film. So was this new for you in regards to acting, or have you done this before?
I hadn't done much acting at all, really. I've done a lot of classes when I moved to the Northwest. I'd gone to Manchester and did, classes every week for about 5 years. I mean, as a singer, I'd always wanted to be in movies or TV. In fact, Leon, I've got something for you here. When we played the Manchester Apollo in 1988, I invited the whole cast of Brookside.
Oh, really?
And most of them came. And we took them out to dinner afterwards, and we had the most wild night. Sheila Grant, it was all those people came, and they got absolutely hammered, and we were like singing in the streets, and the band stayed in touch with Sheila Grant and all, and it was great. So yeah, we were massive fans of the show. So no, my small role is. You know what? When I auditioned for the guys, I auditioned with Leon, the producer Michelle, and Kerry, and it was just, you see that the passion, like they were really going to make this happen. And obviously they didn't have much money to make it happen, but their drive. I mean, you see people working every day towards something that they really want to see come to life. And you really have to drive every day with something like this. I know other people that have tried to make or are trying to make movies. It can take 10 years. If you ask these guys how many years it took them to make this, it's probably, I don't know, it's a long time. And so I just, whatever role they were going to throw my way, I was happy to be, part of it. And the other part I thought as well, as well as this being a perfect movie for lockdown, it had a lot of drama in this story, but there was no guns and no one dies and that's it. That's its charm. That's what its draw. It is a very different, interesting story, and it's perfect for now. And you know, so I would say to people out there, check this movie out. You're like me. I'm sure there's many people like me go, what the hell am I going to watch tonight? Can't think of anything new, same stuff. This is the movie. This will take it away from all that other crash bang wallop stupid films out there that you waste 2 hours watching. Watch Out of Time, because it is worth it. Absolutely.
I mean, a lot of people as well. You can actually get like a trial on Amazon as well, so you can get that for your first time and watch it. But Kerry, I want to say, you know, not because you're all on the show, because I genuinely wouldn't say it if I didn't mean it. This is one of the most incredible and moving pieces of drama I have ever seen in my life. And I've not loved a film as much as Bohemian Rhapsody was the last one. This is the one I've loved the most since then. It was just...
Shut up your mouth. Shut up.
I know. Well, honestly, you should be so proud, because to do what you've done, like Leon said earlier, I've never seen that done before in any film, you know, the actual early process. And it was just so moving. I was saying to Lisa earlier, I really hope people get behind this, because it's just completely different. And Leon, I mean, you absolutely smashed it. By the sounds of it, you just, what Kerry had wrote down, you just made into life.
Oh, thanks, mate. That's... I can't believe you just like put us next to Bohemian Rhapsody. Like, last year. Well, we'll take it.
Compliments are compliments, isn't it?
Yeah, a film made for £2.50 next to something probably cost them 200 million plus. But yeah,
really, and I think, like Nathan said, it didn't need someone getting shot or someone. It was just a real story that was just told so beautifully by the actors. And you know, the fact that little Frankie just played it so well, you know, it was just incredible. So thank you so much for joining us. We've got the more cast next week, and we're going to do a 3-week special with this, and hopefully by then it will keep growing and growing the way it is.
Thank you. Thank you
so
for
much, mate.
Thanks for
Yeah,
having
well,
us.
great job, Lewis. You know, everyone's going to watch it now, and so they should. They need to check this film out, because the rest of the guys, honestly, it's them. I just did my little moment.
There's no such thing as that, Nathan. It's every single little moment. You know, you
guys are going to go on and do great stuff. You're going to do other great work. I know it. I know it, absolutely, and you deserve it. So fantastic.
Thank you.